See, mankind, persons, people, come close to God in love. The experience of falling in love is a taste of life eternal, where the whole of creation is just suddenly beautiful. Just an extraordinary acceptance and an ability to just look and be. An astonishing transformation to fall in love. But of course it's not founded on a knowing, an understanding. It's an experience utterly acceptable. But the knowing how and what it relies on and so on is just not part of it. Whereas life eternal is to know God. To have, well, I suspect God's values, because I tend to say be in harmony with God's values, but there is an incredible individuality within having God's values that you can have. But it is knowing God. And that is not what you do when you fall in love. When you fall in love, you know something of the reward of knowing God, which is that joy and peace and hope and starry-eyed. But it's not in itself the securing of such. And too many of us have found it too often to be just such a case. It does, however, trigger for the child, us, a great willingness to engage with another and, be perfect, although we don't know what perfect is. We have our own values and we bring those to the party, and both sides do, and of course they're not the same and they clash, and then the reality of what's needed starts to set in. What is needed? A true compatibility, which arranged marriages in a sense did seek to achieve, although they were using very worldly criteria, probably because the two families, especially in, say, Indian culture, expected to come extremely close to each other if this couple are in permanent wedlock, as they see it. So it's got to be right for both families. And the world's pretty worldly, and worldly criteria tends to dominate. But you see the point. There is need for compatibility, and that's not by any means necessarily there between two people that fall in love. They fall in love with their view of the other person, which, upon experience with them, changes dramatically. Typically, you could fortuitously, all be hunky-dory, but typically not. And as we say, after 3 years, things are wearing thin, and it's showing cracks in the relationship. The solution in Western culture was, well, it's going to be a love marriage. It's not going to be arranged by the families concerned, particularly. In fact, the families concerned may be out to thwart it if they can. But we do insist on, or did insist long ago, on a courtship, an engagement time. You might be engaged for a year before you got married. My mum, with her first husband, knew him for 6 years, seeing him sort of almost every night, after work, before going home, before they got married. But that doesn't necessarily afford really knowing the other person, only in this starry-eyed type social meeting relationship, albeit just the two of you sitting at a bus stop, It doesn't tell you what it's going to be like actually living together, and as she made it clear to me, they were only together 6 weeks before they parted when they were married. They got married and were together for 6 weeks before they realised there's no way this is going to work. Okay, that's a bit of an extreme example, I hope, or at least I gather, but a very clear example, I suppose. My first wife and I, we didn't fall in love. We got to know each other by getting married as soon as possible. I mean, within 6 months of even meeting each other, or even knowing of each other, rather. Within 2 months of going out with each other, I think we were married. But we weren't in love, not falling in love. And we earnestly, in such Christian purpose as we had, which was pretty strong, I can tell you, pursued the right thing and got to know each other well. I mean, don't get me wrong, we were making love, but I mean, we weren't in love, if you know what I mean. But extremely happy to find each other and to have such a good partner as we saw it. And was the case too. I mean, well, after the passage of 18 years, apparently it became extremely clear to my wife that she should leave and hate me for her doing so. I don't know. Me causing her to leave? Pardon? How? What did I do? Yeah. But whatever. Of course I was in the right, and I'm sure she was in the right too. We are always in the right from our own point of view. And if we aren't, that's very sad. I mean, you feel desperate, and I think that would be even worse. I don't know. The misery might be too much for you to live with. Well, enough of that. The fault is clear, and the fault is meant to come out, I think, in the poem Destiny that I touched on a few recordings back. You might read that. I mean, listen to that, sorry. I've got the original written in front of me, so I'm thinking of reading terms. We go through these experiences that we both know what we truly value. We come to know what we truly value. And it's God, it's the personification of what we truly value has to be what's first in our life. And when you do that, then relationships or otherwise will be accordingly. No problem, because you're not hungering and thirsting after a partner. And this astonished me when I came across the odd, don't remember women particularly, but young men in particular who had decided they would not get married. I thought, oh, that's strange. And it wasn't an era in which one immediately thought, oh, must be gay or something. No. They just wanted to put God first and didn't see that marriage would allow that. Others, of course, earnestly wanted to put God first and understood or thought at least, that they should also get married. And fair enough, they earnestly did that. But I was not there. I was, new to Christianity and just thought, well, I think possibly the way is earnestly finding someone and earnestly loving them, and everything will be fine. But of course it's not necessarily. It's not the case that both of you will move towards a compatible set of values and ones that are compatible with God as well. Not unless you put God first. And then I think there is a possibility of you indeed coming together. Perhaps you feel called to have children and family. And, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Look, this world is here as I understand it. At least I think I understand it. It's my understanding at the minute. That you have opportunity to learn. Now you may learn by being told by the right people and hopefully told rightly. You may learn by observation. And if not, then if you experience the consequence of your present values, then you will learn. But that's, the default option. That's what you fall back on. And that's the hard way, isn't it? So often, it's better to just be told to avoid, and you think, oh yeah, perhaps he's right. I don't value that, do I? Not if that's the outcome, and fair enough. And if not, perhaps you observe it and you think, oh look, that's what happens when you do so and so. I don't want to go down that path. And your values are changing accordingly. Otherwise, you do it, find out by doing, and you live your values to the extent that you do and find out the consequences of them. You adjust your values accordingly. You think, oh no, that doesn't work. I don't value that. I value so and so. And so we are here in an amazing and wonderful opportunity. And so perhaps Paul says, well, if you burn and must burn with desire, I think he meant, and must get married, and okay, but it's not the way for me, he says, basically. Although, I don't know if he was a good Jew. I would have thought he was married at some time. So I don't know. And perhaps Paul is as big a fiction as Jesus is, It is not a history, and we've made up a character. And it's not just, one witness called Paul that's writing about himself, but and the church writing about Paul's, but one story writer, and perhaps it's not one story writer, perhaps it's dozens, many people that have affected what's now written in that scripture, if nothing else by sheer translation, if not producing, quote, copies that were not entirely authentic. And there wouldn't have been any security if it had all been written by Paul himself either, unless Paul himself were a totally and utterly enlightened one, which he may give witness to, but the onlooker might doubt. So, where was I? Coming back to it. This is opportunity, this world. Wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. And even our mistakes just vanish into the past. Just vanish, get smaller and smaller as they get into the distant past. Or you could say, well, God is forgiving and kind, and a good parent understands. Of course the child makes mistakes. They're children. They've not got it all together yet, but we're working on it. And if God's working on it, my goodness, you're going to get there, aren't you? Thank God. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.